Hey St. Catharines, Mayor Matt Cisco here. Welcome back to another episode of talkSTC. We are into the beautiful month of May. It is summer springing, I think. It's the weather just keeps getting better and better. I hope you're having an opportunity to get out and enjoy all the great things that are going on in town. Lots of activity all across our city. Right now we're in the midst of the Niagara Folk Arts Festival. Last month we had the opportunity to talk with folks over at the Folk Arts and find out all about the exciting open houses. Please make sure you're checking those out. Always a good time to celebrate the diversity and the culture that exists right in St. Catharines. And I want to give a shout out to our junior athletics. The junior athletics season does kick off later this month. I'm excited. I'm going to try and get out to the home opener and a few of the games up at Canada Summer Games Park. Always an exciting time. Today's episode, my first guest, is an exciting one for me, a friend of mine now for a number of years, and one of our three new city councillors, Councillor Mark Stevens. Welcome to the show today.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Excellent. And after I'm finished with Mark, I'm going to have a conversation. The Niagara River Lions season is upcoming, and so we're going to be joined by Niagara River Lions Vice President Michelle Biskup and Head Coach Victor Raso just to talk about the upcoming season. But we are here with Councillor Stevens. As I said, I've known Mark now, I guess we're going on 12, 13 years. Yeah. It's been a while. Retired logistics coordinator. He took his retirement just before he began as a city councillor, so he was able to devote all the time to being a city councillor. Born and raised here in St. Catharines, though. Married 35 years this coming October.
Yes.
You and Sherry have been together for 30. That is
actually, we probably dated 5 or 6 years before that as well.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you got some history.
Yeah.
I'm liking it. Father of 2 children, both who live and work in St. Catharines. Yeah. You were a soccer and a lacrosse coach. You were a scout leader for 20 years. Are you still a scout leader?
No.
No? So you left that one behind?
Moved up.
There we go. Past treasurer of the Old Boys Lacrosse Association, past chair and board member of Crime Stoppers of Niagara, and the soon-to-be president of the Grantham Lions Club this coming July. Tell me a little bit about your involvement with the Grantham Lions, because I know that's where you and I, before you became a city councilor, that's where we ran into each other most often.
Yeah, well, I was doing all my, I coached all the kids and everything when they were younger, and then they got older, so the next step was to move up and help the community in another way, maybe with older people or a broader audience. So the Lions Club, my neighbor was a Lions member, had been bugging me for years to join, but I was doing too much other things to join at the time. And when the kids were out of sports, it's like, yeah, okay, let's give her a whirl.
I will say you might be the only guy in the community who loves fish fries as much as I do. When Grantham Lions is running a fish fry, I know your smiling face is going to be out the door and you're just directing traffic and pointing people where they need to go.
They're a lot of fun, and people love coming to them too. It's great.
Yes, well, this Halifax-born individual loves the fish fry. So new to council, but this was not your first attempt jumping onto council. You are one of the folks I love talking to because you stuck with it, you kept the effort up, and you were rewarded in the fall this year.
Yeah, ran for mayor in 2014. A couple of guys sitting around the backyard, seeing the candidates, and like, you know what? I'm not sure if I like these guys. So if you want to get in, you want to change something, you got to get in on it. So threw my hat in. I learned a lot. I was pretty naive going into it. And stuck with it. Tried to gain council in 2018. Wasn't successful. Did it one more time. I figured I'm going to do it 3rd time's the charm, or 3 strikes and I was out. So 3rd time was the charm.
Well, I'm glad you're there, and I'm glad you managed to get through because, like I said, one of the most dedicated people I know to the community, the coaching, the volunteer experience. What have the first 6 months been like, though, as a city councilor? Is it what you expected? Is it what you were hoping for?
It's been very rewarding. It's nice to get out and interact with the community, too, especially in your ward. A lot of people, they just don't know what's going on. So when they call you and have a question, they just like to hear the answer. So I always try to get back to everybody. I try to visit them personally too if I can. They don't always get the answer they like, but they're happy that they got an answer from me. And as far as council, making decisions that betterment, everybody that lives in the city.
That's fantastic. And that's why we're always there. Yeah. That's why we're doing it. But I will say, you've been one of the most visible councillors, and I always appreciate, I know if I can't go to an event, there's a good chance you're going to be there, and you're happy to bring greetings on my behalf, but you've been to a lot of events now in the first 6 months. Any events that stand out for you? Anything that's upcoming that you're looking forward to?
I mean, with the Folk Arts Festival coming up, all the open houses and seeing all the different ethnic community that we have in our area, and visiting them and trying their foods and looking at all their traditions. I love it. My wife loves coming with me to those as well. It's great to meet all these people and all these new Canadians. My family's been in Canada for like 200 years, so we just have that Canadian thing. So to see all these other people, I love it. It's wonderful.
It is one of the cool things about St. Catharines. There's a lot of different ethnocultural groups that we can get out and experience, and it's great. And I will throw in my plug right now, Folk Arts Festival, 55th annual Folk Arts Festival. It's the longest running ethnocultural festival, continuously running across Canada. Winnipeg, you know you're wrong when you try and pretend it's yours. So you've been getting out to events. You've been talking to a lot of residents. Now, a conversation you and I have had in the past is this idea of, residents wanting to make sure they're getting bang for their buck. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about your viewpoint about whether you think residents are getting bang for their buck when it comes to the city of St. Catharines.
I think they are. I've seen the crews this winter, and I'm quite happy with, especially with snow removal and that. I mean, there's certain areas of the street, especially if you live on a circle, cul-de-sac, they're the last ones to get done, and they're not even a secondary street, they're past that. I think the crews have done a good job. There's always people that complain because they want theirs done first. I know the city's behind on some tree stuff and everything, but they're really working on that, and I've seen new trees being planted on my street. The neighbors' trees have been planted. I think they do get a bang for their buck. No one ever wants taxes going up and everything, but once they realize, when you explain things to people, they kind of get it, and they're not as upset.
Yeah.
People don't know, and when you explain something to them, they got to get and use our website, the email. You'll know the address better than that. I don't know.
citizensfirst@stcatharines.ca?
Or the one that you get emailed to you all the time with all the information on it.
Oh, the city mailing list.
Yeah,
Garden City Current.
Get on that. That shows everything that's going on. It's great. Answers all your questions.
100%.
Yeah.
So we went through the budget cycle this year, and we've talked a lot about the investments that we're trying to make, right? So we're looking at bringing in GPS onto the snow plows. We acknowledged we do need to be planting more trees, and so that's been a large part of our reinvestment in the community. We just had the tree sale, which were you at the tree sale this year?
Oh.
No, you didn't go
I
to
didn't
that
get one.
Oh, okay.
I signed up, and the one I wanted was sold out.
Oh, there you go. But we are making those investments, and I think that speaks to exactly what you're talking about, right? Residents want to see the value of what they're doing, and if we're continuing to try and green the community and we're trying to improve the services, I think residents appreciate that. Yeah. Now, you were on the Committee of Adjustment before you came on.
Yes.
And that's a unique experience, although I will say you're one of two councillors now who are on the Committee of Adjustment. You both got elected in the same election. Yeah. How does that change you now as a councillor than before you were on the Committee of Adjustment when you were running for council? How do you view things now because of that experience?
Well, the way councils run is not new to me, because the Committee of Adjustment runs just like council. So that was good. That was a smooth transition to come to the horseshoe. But as far as seeing when planning has a report, and I see what the building people are building new and asking and redoing these brownfields, I saw that sitting on the committee, and I've seen the process, and I know how it works and what's involved, and I know the process now, and I don't know, it makes it easier.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you had to go through education, and you had to go through training to be on Committee of Adjustment. It's one thing that I think is lacking for councillors is we don't have that same sort of in-depth training when it comes to planning issues. So it takes time to develop an understanding and ask the right questions of staff to figure out exactly how the process all fits together. So I think you come in, you and Councillor McPherson, both having sat on the Committee of Adjustment, I think you come in with a bit of an advantage over other new councillors, and that learning curve isn't quite as steep when it comes to planning issues.
We know some of the rules that when certain buildings going on, and some of the residents don't understand either. They're like, why is that notice there? The house is already built. Well, it's basically like just a housekeeping.
Yeah.
It's already there. It's allowed. That's the rules. And so you explain that to them, and then they're usually fairly happy with it.
Fairly happy, or at least they have a better understanding when it's done.
Yeah.
So, talking about planning, the biggest issue we've got coming to us with planning right now is housing, obviously.
Yes.
What are your thoughts? Where do you think the city needs to be going when it comes to future housing?
I mean, it's great that we own the property on Geneva Street, so we're able to set some rules or guidelines for the sale of that to help. Making the planning process easier for some developers that are willing to make more affordable housing, because I mean, ultimately we can't tell somebody how to spend their money and what to build. We can guide them and persuade them a little bit, we hope.
So that persuasion, when we talk about things like the CIP, the Community Improvement Plan, how do you think that fits into the whole idea of guiding the process and trying to get the community the type of housing that we need?
I think it's a very good program, especially the fact that our city's being landlocked, as they call it, right? Because our borders are really trapped. So the brownfield development, we need that with the GM site and the old hospital sites, and it's very expensive to start to build when there's already like a mess there, basically. Like building virgin soil, it's cheaper. But when you have to go and remodel or tear down and haul away, you're already spending tons of money. So the developer, I mean, everybody's tight on money. So if we can help them, and they appreciate that, and in return have some more affordable housing with that, it's a win-win for everybody, I believe.
Well, and it's one of those things that I don't think gets talked about enough. We always joke that nobody gets anything from our incentive grants until the city gets that increased assessment. So the city's already winning from a revenue perspective, because we're collecting more than we were before right off the hop.
An empty lot gives nothing in taxes, basically.
And that's exactly it. So, I mean, you see those improvements, they have to demonstrate what they've done, and they have to show how the assessed value has gone up, which means the tax revenue is going to go up. And then once they show us the receipts, if it's a brownfield remediation, they show how much they spent. That's when grants start to flow. But again, the city's already getting more money in than they were before, and the city always comes out ahead. And I think you've done a good job. I appreciate the work you've done trying to communicate that with residents, and I think it's a thing we just have to keep talking about, because CIPs are enormously helpful, useful, productive in every municipality that they're used in.
And I think people have to realize too that St. Catharines is 147 years old, right? And it's an older city, so things cost more to fix and repair because it's been there for so long. It's not like a brand new city and everything's nice and new and underground. So
that's exactly it. We've got 150th big celebration coming up in a couple of years. I know you're going to help me plan that. Mark Stevens, thank you so much for coming out. St. George's Ward Councillor in the beautiful city of St. Catharines.
Right. Thank you very much, sir.
Awesome. Coming up next, we are going to be chatting with our friends from the Niagara River Lions about their upcoming season. Welcome back to talkSTC. I am very excited for my next two guests. As we get into the spring, we're getting outside, but we have to remember the Meridian Center is about to start hopping with a bunch of Niagara River Lions basketball. So today with me, I have, first of all, Michelle Biskup, the Vice President of Operations. She's been with the Niagara River Lions since their inaugural season in 2015-2016, grown alongside the team during their 8 years in Niagara. Now the VP of Operations, she oversees the day-to-day activities of the Niagara River Lions and ensures that all parts of the business, the ticketing, the sales, the marketing, the public relations, the basketball operations, all running smoothly. So Michelle, welcome to the show today.
Thank you for having me.
And we also have Victor Raso today. He's the head coach and the general manager of the Niagara River Lions. Also, I believe, the longest tenured head coach in the Canadian Elite Basketball League.
That is true, yeah.
How many years are we going into now?
I'm going into my 5th year.
5th year. That's impressive. This is a well-sustained basketball program. Niagara has become one of those destinations for developing talent, players looking to further their careers in spring and summer months. Your track record of success, and I cheated, I looked it up, 41-22, which is impressive in any sport. And you were the CEBL Coach of the Year in 2019, and you're the only team that has actually made it to the championship weekend every time, correct?
That is correct.
That is a record of excellence, and I appreciate having people like that sit next to me on the show, so thank you for coming in.
Oh, thanks for having us.
So River Lions basketball is coming back to the Meridian Center. Season starts late May, couple of games on the road, and then you come back June 3rd. So for those in the community who haven't been to a River Lions game, Michelle, tell us, what are they missing and why do they need to get out to the Meridian Center?
So we always say once people come once, they'll want to come back. It's just so much more than a basketball game. You don't have to be a basketball fan to enjoy it. There's just so much happening from pregame all the way through. It's nonstop, it's fast-paced, it's 2 hours long, so it goes by like this. The basketball is great, like you'll see slam dunks, you'll see great plays, but we do lots of giveaways, we have lots of fan interaction, so it's really something you have to experience to know what's going on. The people that come just love it, and our goal is to just keep filling the Meridian Centre every year.
And you've done a really good job of that over the last couple of years. I will say I've been out to a bunch of games, and you're not wrong. You come once and you're going to want to come back. The in-game experience is it's fast-paced. Like there's always something happening. And I was mentioning before we started, I prefer in-person basketball a lot more over the televised experience. Being in the arena, just there's something different about it because there's always something going on. This upcoming season, what do you have in store for fans? What can people expect this year?
So every year we're just trying to raise the bar. What can we do that will excite fans and keep them coming back? Especially for season ticket holders who are there all 10 games. We don't want it to become repetitive. So this year, just adding some new elements. We've always had like pyro and fireworks and smoke and that kind of stuff. So changing that up. We're going to be doing giveaways every single game for the first 500 fans. So people will want to get there early. Some cool stuff that we'll be giving away through that. We'll be, again, lots of giveaways. We're going to do different theme nights. We'll have stuff happening outside the arena, stuff happening on the concourse, halftime entertainment. So yeah, just really a whole ton of different stuff every single game.
I love it. I'm easily impressed, so I will tell you. I brought this to a variety of different teams I've enjoyed going to games with. If you can get really big buckets of popcorn, like double, triple size, as a guy who makes a fool of himself eating popcorn, I would really appreciate that. I just leave that to you. You see what can be managed. Big deal this year. I mentioned I prefer to be in the stadium, but for fans of the game who might not be able to make it out, some really big news for the CEBL with a national television deal. You want to talk a little bit about where the River Lions feature into that?
Yeah, so a couple months ago, our league announced that TSN will be the official broadcast partner for the 2023 season, which will feature a game of the week throughout the course of the season. So ours will be on June 13th. It'll be nationally televised on TSN. We play the Montreal Alliance that night, and we're just really excited to be able to showcase to the rest of Canada what River Lions basketball is all about. We're hoping we can have a full crowd, really great atmosphere for that game so that people see on TV and it makes them want to come to Niagara and experience it in person.
So I'll tell you, and this is kind of a geeky personal feeling, but having been one of the councillors that got to vote in favor of building the Meridian Centre, if there's one thing I love, it's seeing that building on national television. It is one of the most beautiful arenas in the country, and I love the opportunity to showcase it now for basketball the way we have for hockey and the way we have for curling. Like, it's just a multi-use center, and it's great to hear that the CEBL recognizes what a great place it is to broadcast from as well. Now, Coach, I don't want to go any further. We talked about your bio. Tell me a little bit more about Victor Raso, the player, and how that compares to Victor Raso, the head coach. How do those two people sort of interact?
It was definitely a difficult transition when I stopped playing to become a head coach, or to become a coach. I always knew that coaching was something that I wanted to do after. So even as I was playing, I was, approach things a little differently, understanding that I wanted to be a coach afterwards. But the most difficult transition is, when you're a player, you're almost less nervous because it's in your control. As a coach, you can prepare your players as hard as possible. You can do everything that you can possibly think of, but ultimately, the players are the ones who play the game. So kind of bridging that gap of player to coach was more of a mentality thing than anything. But I got to say, looking back on it, I enjoy playing basketball still, playing men's leagues and stuff like that. I love the game from this angle almost more than I do from being on the court.
So, I've coached at a very different level. You're at one of the highest levels when you're talking about athletes who can do a lot of things. I'm going to make the assumption that you coach a lot of guys, maybe all of them, who can do things on the court that when you were a player, you weren't able to do the same thing. What's that experience like? Because I know for myself, I always kind of laughed when I'm coaching young football players. Some of them are significantly better than I ever was. And I take a lot of joy in watching them just do things that I was never physically capable. I imagine that happens to you occasionally. What's that feel like?
It's not occasionally, it's pretty permanently. I mean, I joke with them, and not really a joke, like I tell them I'm a better shooter than most of them, because I could do that really well, but athletically, these guys are at a different level than I ever was. So I approach it with confidence. This is how we're going to do things, and I speak to the guys on a relationship level because I'm not much older than some of them. In fact, this will be the first year where there's not a player on the team who's older than me. And they just respect. Guys want to be coached. People want to be coached, and if you coach them with respect, if you coach them with discipline and fundamental values that go across the board, even though they're way better than I ever was, they're very receptive.
I'm not going to lie. If you're going to be the oldest guy on the team this year, I don't know what that makes me. I feel ancient hearing that comment. Let's talk a little bit about the team. A lot of in the media recently, about the different player signings and who's coming to town. Tell me what the team looks like. How are we looking this year?
I think we're looking pretty good. So we have a mix of, our Americans that we had last year. We're bringing them back. And then, a little bit different on the Canadian front. And, we've kind of made some changes to guys who impact winning in a bunch of different ways. I think going into the season, this is one of the most complete rosters I've been able to put together. And I think this roster will reflect me as a coach, someone who's incredibly prepared when they play, organized, and very competitive as well. So I'm really excited about the group, and I think we're capable of achieving our goals.
So the goal and expectation is championship weekend again?
The goal and expectation is to win the championship. So we've made the championship weekend every year, but we haven't cracked the code yet. So figuring out a way to do that is always the goal.
Now you're big on player development, and I know last year a couple players wound up signing contracts for the NBA. Talk a little bit about the player development side of things.
When I started, and Michelle can attest to this, I wanted to make this the preeminent destination in the country for Canadian basketball players. And, that obviously includes a few Americans every single year. And at this stage of their career, they're past their formative years where they're coached really hard in a family environment in college. And then once they branch off into the professional world, it's very rare that they, get a family type setting where, it almost feels like college again. And that's really what I try to give to the guys. And we do a great job in Thorold of making sure, all the guys live close, live together, and development is at the reason why these guys are here. They get to, be with like-minded individuals who train every single day. They get a platform where they get to play in this country, and now they get to play on national TV, and their roles are a little bit different than the places they've come from in the past. I make sure that I bring in guys who really want to improve over the summer, not just want to come in and make a paycheck, which is, a very common thing in the professional sports world. I really want guys who care, because usually guys who care more about, things other than just winning basketball games. They care about their community, the organization, their teammates. And that's really the model that we've kind of followed over the last 5 years.
Well, and you have been intimately involved in the community. Michelle, I know you've created a lot of community partnerships. Can you talk a little bit about the groups you're working with? We talk about player development. I know you're running a camp with the Niagara Regional Native Center in the next couple of weeks. Can you expand a little bit on that?
Yeah, community has always been really important to us. We always say that we're never going to say no to anything. We'll find a way to make something work, whether it's sending our players, our coaches, our mascot, our street team, helping organizations raise money. We'll do it all. We'll find a way to make it work. So connecting with the youth is probably one of the biggest priorities for us. We run camps during the off season. They sell out like this. So there's obviously a demand for sport and for basketball. And doing stuff like with the Native Youth Center. We're excited to do that at the end of June, where our players and our coaches will run a session for them, just like we do with our regular clinics and sessions for kids, and teach them some skills, have some fun along the way, and let our players connect with them.
Now, I know, and this is just my observation over the last 15 years when I've been in the school system, but watch basketball, and it seems like basketball in Niagara seems to be building. You're getting more capacity within the programs, the different house leagues and travel teams and everything else. Are you finding that the folks that are coming out to games have attachments to that? Is that big with the youth basketball programs, that they're sort of funneling their kids and saying, hey, there are opportunities to play pro locally, go watch? Is that a big part of where you draw your fan base?
Yeah, I think the affordability and the accessibility of basketball just is helping it grow and expand so much. And Vic can talk a little bit too towards, he's always wanted to create a pipeline for players from a young age to become pros. They see from a young age that there's a pro team here, then maybe they go to Brock, then maybe they come to the River Lions, and they can stay in Niagara and have that whole pipeline to have a whole career that way.
I think, you're kind of speaking my language. I always kind of laugh. My focus has always been on kids and trying to get kids involved with things, because those are the people that wind up being the leaders in the community going forward, right? And it seems to me that River Lions are doing a really exceptional job of trying to bring them in. You have a school day game this year. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about that. Just 30-second synopsis of what kind of a nonsense event that is to be organizing.
Yeah, the Meridian Center will be electric. We're expecting just over 3,000 kids. The whole bowl area will be filled. It's an amazing day. It starts at 11 a.m., so it's a little bit of an earlier game, but it's just loud. It's nonstop fun for the kids, and it's all about connecting with them. A lot of them, this will be their first time getting to experience River Lions basketball. There's a lot of schools that will receive some complimentary tickets for kids that would never even have the means to do so. So it's just a really great day to connect with the youth. We bring in an entertainer, motivator, named Saidat, and she does a really good job of spreading positive messages and making it kind of an educational day as well.
I enjoy hearing about it, and I look forward to watching you try and herd 3,000 cats at the Meridian Center. Michelle, Victor, thank you so much for coming in. Where can we get tickets?
So if you visit riverlions.ca/tickets, follow our social media pages, lots announcing in the next few weeks with fun stuff happening at the game. So we hope to see everyone there.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming in. Go River Lions, and we'll be right back after the break. St. Catharines, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Talk STC. I want to thank Councillor Mark Stevens for coming in and chatting about housing and all the great things happening in St. George's Ward. Also, thank you to Michelle Biskup and Victor Raso of the Niagara River Lions. Talk STC is here for you. Let me know, mayor@stcatharines.ca, if you have any ideas, any thoughts about who I should have on future episodes. And thank you for tuning in. Take care, everybody.